All right, this is another press review with me, Anthony Olensky, and just listen to Tony. Another day, 12:20, and the quote for today, because we always start with a quote before we get into the article. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them. And this is a quote from Epictetus, Greek Stoic philosopher. This guy was born into slavery. I guess he learned the lesson the hard way. Anyway, one article, and it's from Astro Codex 10, and I just thought it's so well written, and I just wanted to go through it with y'all, or just read it out to you because you maybe don't have the time to read it yourselves, and maybe you're driving, playing some sports, running, whatever. But this is what I wanted to read out to you. So anyway, my presidential platform is the title of the article. I think it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek take on what it would mean to be a good president for the people in the U.S. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil it. Let's just jump into it. So here it goes. The American people deserve a choice. They deserve a candidate who will reject the failed policies of the past and embrace the failed policies of the future. It is my honor to announce I am throwing my hat into both the Democratic and Republican primaries to double my chances with the following platform. And this is first section. Ensure naval supremacy and reduce wealth inequality by bringing back the liturgy. All right. The liturgy was a custom of ancient Athens. When the state needed something, usually a new worship, it would ask for volunteers among its richest citizens. Usually one would step up to gain glory or avoid scorn. If nobody did, the courts were allowed to choose the richest person who hadn't helped out recently. The liturgist would fund the worship and command it as a captain for 2 years, after which his debt to the state was considered discharged and he was given a golden crown. It's a nice prize, I guess, right? Historians treat the liturgy as a gray area between voluntary service and compulsory taxation. Most rich Athenians were eager to serve and gain the relevant honor, but they also knew that if they didn't, they would be compelled to perform the same service with less benefit to their personal reputation. Defense analysts warn that America's naval dominance is declining. And here's a quote from some report from an analyst. Only 25% of America's 114 commissioned surface combatants, cruisers, destroyers, and littoral combat ships are less than a decade old. By comparison, more than 80% of China's 141 destroyers, frigates, and corvettes have been commissioned in the past decade. In the same time period, the United States commissioned 30 surface combatants. The nearly 600 ship navy of the late 1980s deployed only 15% of the fleet on average. Today, with fewer than 300 ships, the U.S. Navy deploys more than 35% to service its global missions, contributing to a material death spiral. So, America is short on warships, but it is very long on rich people with big egos. An aircraft carrier would cost the richest American billionaires about the same fraction of their wealth as a trireme cost the richest Athenian aristocrats. So I say, bring back the liturgy. And here's a cool photo of an ancient, I guess, Greek worship boat. Anyway, the American rich already enjoy spending their money on exciting vehicles, yachts for the normies, rockets for the more ambitious, Titanic submersibles for the suicidal. Why not redirect the impulse towards public service? Imagine the fear it would strike into the hearts of the Chinese when the USS Musk enters ludicrous mode in the waters of the Taiwan Strait with Elon himself at the wheel. Imagine how efficiently the USS Jeff Bezos will deliver its payloads. And does anyone doubt that billionaires, usually careful to avoid taxes, will jump at the chance to do this? The Athenians had a parallel liturgy for rich people who would select and sponsor theater productions, but I think we can skip this one for now. That's I think that's this is like a very, very strong first point in his campaign. Anyway, the second subsection is entitled "Make Sovereign Citizens Real." So, as president, I would encourage Congress to pass sweeping legislation rewriting the U.S. tax code to have bizarre loopholes based on the difference between legal and actual people, with special reference to World War I and the beginning of income taxes in the 1910s. These would include, but not be limited to, legal documents that use someone's names in all caps will refer to something subtly different than ones that use names in lowercase. Any court where there is a yellow fringe around the flag will be officially an admiralty court, whose rulings will only count insofar as their judges can link them to strange ship-related metaphors. Any black person who claims to be a citizen of Morocco, in some sense, will be bound by the rights and obligations listed in the U.S. 1786 treaty with Morocco instead of normal citizenship laws. If the U.S. 1786 treaty with Morocco contains no clauses related to rights or obligations, which I am told is true, then I will renegotiate it to contain those clauses. Accounts will be created in the name of every U.S. citizen containing $630,000, which they can access only through extremely complicated legal financial schemes. I will direct the executive branch to release confusing and contradictory documentation about all these things, hinting at their existence without acknowledging them outright or giving a clear guide to their use. Why? So why all this weird shit I just read out? Because there are many existing tax loopholes and legal quirks, and nobody forms conspiracy theories or terrorist groups or right-wing militias around them. The feeling that they have secret information and are getting away with something fuels the modern sovereign citizen movement, who have been characterized as dangerous, hurtful, and extremist. Once sovereign citizenship is made real, it will lose its appeal. Federal agencies will ensure that the procedures are so arcane that basically nobody ever succeeds at pulling them off, and it will publish clear statistics. Example, only 0.001% of people who applied for a tax exemption based on their sovereign citizenship status get one, which will further detract from its appeal. The few people who continue to be interested will get their knowledge from the IRS website rather than far-right forums, denying extremist groups a key method of recruitment and organization. Probably a few people will pass through the web of bizarre demands and successfully become exempt from paying taxes. These people will have distinguished themselves by excellence in sticking to finky rules, even when lots of people are telling them it's stupid to worry about it, and they will immediately be hired as inspectors to root out police corruption. I think that's interesting. So first one is like, yeah, let's get the rich to kind of actually chip into something that makes sense and could give them some glory and boost their ego. Number two is make sovereign citizens real, meaning like this whole section was about, hey, like it's so easy to avoid taxes in the U.S. Let's create a system that's just so fucking arcane and hard to figure out, and no one does so. Third point, fight climate change and racism with giant statues. All right, that's intriguing. So 20% of CO2 emissions come from coal, but attempts to decrease the reliance on coal have met political resistance. The industry of some key swing states centers around coal mining, and despite calls that coal miners should learn to code or go into the carrying professions, reskilling them has proven difficult, and they're unwilling to go on welfare. Some environmentalists have argued that we should buy coal mines to shut them down. Fearing job loss, states with coal mines have responded by making it illegal to own coal mines and not use them. See the incentives when they're fucked. That's what we get. One environmentally friendly compromise would be to buy the coal mines, mine the coal, but not burn it. But then, what do we do with all the coal? I propose building giant statues of black people. Coal is already artistically suited for this, and it would help address our nation's 300-year history of racial oppression. If each statue were the size of the largest existing statue, the Statue of Unity in India, for example, then it would take about 5,000 statues to fully consume the U.S. yearly coal production. Wikipedia's list of famous African Americans has about 4,000 names, so that would only last us about 1 year. I would encourage more African Americans to become famous so we can continue using the solution to the environmental crisis. Still, this would only buy us a few more years, and eventually we would have to think bigger. Mount Rushmore, the whole mountain, not just the faces, is big enough that copying it would take 20 years of national coal production. Shit. Given that all the faces on Rushmore are white, I propose a companion mountain on the opposite side of the observation plaza, Mount Racemore, featuring Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Henrietta Lacks, and Ibram X. Kendi. Probably this will also create jobs or something. There we go. All right. Next section: universal military service for data sets. I'm just gonna take a sip. So, Scandinavian countries are currently beating us in the all-important social science wars. Their universal military service means they do psychological and medical tests on every 18-year-old male in the country, which can then be correlated with various health and economic outcomes years later. I propose 1 week of mandatory military service for all Americans, just long enough to give them the ASVAB and a couple of other instruments. This will also let everyone reminisce about back when I was in the military and feel good for having served their country. Also, everyone, including Republicans, supports free government-sponsored healthcare when it's through the Veteran Affairs system, so you can just make all these people eligible for VA care and solve the healthcare crisis. All right. The next section is appoint Governor Jim Justice to the Supreme Court. Jim Justice is the current governor of West Virginia. If he were on the Supreme Court, people would have to address him as Justice. I believe that we as a nation can and should make this happen. I would also work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs to see that if we could get a tribe to appoint him as an honorary leader, in which case I would give him John Roberts' job and he could become Chief Justice, or possibly Chief Justice. All right, that's solid point. No one's going to argue with that one, I guess, either Republicans or Democrats. The next section is entitled, or the next proposal or whatever on the presidential platform is legalize lying about your college on resumes. Well, colleges trap Americans in a cycle of burdensome loans and act to reinforce class privilege. I have previously advocated making college degrees a protected characteristic, which it is illegal to ask people about on their job applications. But this would be hard to enforce, and people would come up with other ways to communicate their education level. So, let's think different. Let's make it legal to lie about your college and resumes. It is already not technically legal to lie on a resume, but companies can ask for slightly different forms of corroboration, which it is illegal to lie on. Everyone can just say Harvard and nobody will have an unfair advantage over anyone else. But I guess that will just create some other form of this is like the real thing and the real deal, or like you have special QR codes or whatever to make sure that this person is not lying. But anyway, bigger point is the thing of I went to Harvard and you get a job just because you have that logo on your resume is kind of fucked. So I agree with this one. Start an internet pop-up trade war with the European Union. All right. For too long, Americans have groaned under the weight of foreign cookie-related pop-ups, which they and their elected representatives have no control over. It is time to fight back. When I am elected, I will mandate that all American websites serve pop-ups to European Union residents explaining why the GDPR is annoying and why it affects Americans who have no say in it. If the Europeans want to be able to access Google, Facebook, Twitter, or any other US-based site without clicking I understand every time they reload it, they'll have to pressure their government to do something about GDPR. I agree. Like, when was the last time you clicked, I want to go into the details or whatever. There's this thing like I understand, or like accept all, or like whatever, go deeper, and like you have to, you don't untick all of them in the end, and you just agree, and I think it's pointless. So the next point on the platform, or next, I guess, it's appoint Donald Trump constitutional monarch. I'm intrigued. All right. This would require a constitutional amendment, but I'm sure I could convince enough people. The British experience suggests that the role of a constitutional monarch is so flaunt, to flaunt how rich they are, get 24/7 news coverage regardless of whether or not they do anything interesting, and have scandals. Donald Trump is the best person in the world at all three of these things. Trump wants to be on top, but is not that interested in governing. Meanwhile, American liberals, by revealed preference, want to continue talking about him every hour of the day forever, but also don't want him to govern. Constitutional monarchy would satisfy everyone's preferences. If Trump is destined to destroy democracy, and everyone agrees that he is, let's make it happen as gently and non-destructively as possible. Obviously, the royal family can't participate in regular electoral politics, which means no Trump would ever be able to run for office ever again. This is the only way we are ever getting rid of him. And you know it's true. Please don't throw away this chance. I would support reverse primogeniture-based inheritance, i.e. the youngest son takes the throne, so just so we can have a King Baron. The youngest kid of Trump is called Baron Trump, I think. So yeah, King Baron sounds pretty sick. Next section, minimum wage of $9,099,900 per hour for New York Times journalists. New York Times journalists play a central role in the American information system, and I believe they deserve this. All right. Diffuse the culture war by bringing back castrati. All right. Religious organizations are leading the fight against puberty blockers and hormones for transgender children, arguing that they amount to castrating adolescents. This is a bizarre and ahistorical coalition. For hundreds of years, religious organizations were leaders in castrating young people whose lack of puberty gave them supernaturally beautiful voices for singing in church choirs. The church originally resisted human rights activists' call to stop the practice, but eventually gave in the 1800s, admitting that lack of meaningful consent made the operation an abomination. But the current political climate gives us an opportunity to win for a win-win deal. I propose that religious conservatives drop their opposition to puberty blockers for transgender youth in exchange for the government funding all sex reassignment surgeries. Young trans women will do 2 years of community service in religious choirs, allowing the church to recapture 18th century hymns that have fallen into disuse. All right, that's a heavy one. No comment here. Next section, clean the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is made of copper and was originally a shiny orange gold color. No fucking way. There's a photo. There's like their pictures in their article. Over the years, it has tarnished and is currently faded green. I thought it was green, always green. Wild. So yeah, this is a little too on the nose as a metaphor for American society. As part of a general agenda of restoring liberty nationwide, I would order the Statue of Liberty cleaned until it is back to its original shining gold state and restored yearly thereafter. Why hasn't anyone done this already? And I guess this is the last section. A vote for me is a vote for change, as every good politician says. Together, we can make America great again, which is not to imply I think it was ever better in the past, which is not to imply I don't believe we're currently at an all-time, at a time of unprecedented crisis. Sorry, America has always been terrible and still is, but it could be better tomorrow. First step towards making this happen is getting me in the Republican and Democratic primary debates, which will require 65,000 unique donors. Governor Doug Burgum, who is independently wealthy, has promised that if you donate $1 to his campaign, he'll give you a $20 gift card. I will soon be setting up a site where you can donate $2 and it will give $1 to me, $1 to Doug Burgum, and he'll still give you the gift card. That's an $18 profit just by donating to my campaign. But you can also take action in other ways. For the past 50 years, and I think this thing with Governor Doug Burgum is not a joke. There's a link to an article that from CBS News. Anyway, check it out yourselves. For the past 50 years, whoever won Ottawa County, Ohio, has won the overall election. So to stretch my limited resources more efficiently, I'll be focusing my entire campaign on Ottawa County. Sure, some people say causal reasoning doesn't work that way. But these are the same so-called experts, in quotes, who said Trump couldn't win in 2016. So if you know someone in Ottawa County, please tell them about my ideas. I am the only candidate who can credibly take on the elites. I have never served in government before, and don't even regularly watch the news. I have spent a total of about 1 week in my life in Washington, D.C., most of which was to participate in the National Ocean Sciences Bowl as a high school student. My team took second place because taking first would have made me an elite, which I am not. This is my commitment to you. God bless America. What a fuck. It's just like, justice. This is, I really enjoyed this article. I think some of these things should be redone. And if he was running for president, I think I would vote for him. So this was more like a tongue-in-cheek take on politics in general, because I think in any country right now, things are quiet. Yeah, pretty serious and polarized. So hopefully this kind of helped you take a step back on reality and politics. Have a good laugh. And going back to the quote from the very beginning of this episode, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them. So if this article angered you, I'm your master, I guess. Anyway, have a good one.